On this and a whole other burning issue, economic burning issue, with the Chief Executive Officer of Financial Derivatives Company, Mr. Bismarck Rewane. Mr. Rewane, good morning, and thank you for your time. Well, I think the first thing would be help us to understand the Naira, and of course, connected to the protest, which is the hottest issue in the country at this time.
Good morning, Ini. Yes, the protest is expensive, and what we have done is to analyze the total cost impact of that. So the GDP of Nigeria is about it's about $581 million if the entire economy is shut down for 1 day. For 2 days, it's about almost $1.16 billion. So that is the cost if you shut down the economy, but the economy was not totally shut down. It was shut down partially. So if you take an average for 4 days running, and let us say it's only 50% of the economy affected, you will find that it comes to about almost $1.45 billion. So that is the cost impact. But the reality is that the economy was not totally shut down. But what is happening is that some activities were stymied, and some people were holding back others. But it's a very expensive exercise, both from a macroeconomic perspective, but also psychologically and sociologically. People are beginning to believe that, okay, can I go to work? I've not added the time of people staying in queues, and the fact that when one sector shuts down, it affects the other. So the interrelationship and the linkages between one sector and the other are very expensive. So the country needs further protests and further strikes, right? Just as much as it needs a bullet in the head. Nigeria cannot afford this. So the leadership has to understand that you can't allow this thing to foster. And the people have to understand that there are time lags between when policies are made and when impacts are felt. But the real connection between both sides is the fact that there's a credibility gap on the side of the government, and there's a crisis of false expectations on the part of credibility gap on the part of the governing, and there's a false expectation on the part of the governed. So crisis of false expectation. Now, the meeting ground is communication. That is, the administration has to engage and enter into dialogue, not just dialogue for the sake of talking, but dialogue for the sake of meaningful conversation and genuine conversation, knowing very well that the people are the masters here, and the governing class, that is us, the leadership, have to listen to them and carry out what they require in a meaningful manner. That is the real issue right now.
All right, so we also saw the oil. We saw a huge crash, and we're seeing a rebound this morning. And then when we juxtapose that with the Utakpate crude oil blend that Nigeria has just recovered, does it give us a bit of an edge?
No, if you say that the price of oil, if you can look at it, the price of oil has dropped to $75 a barrel on the back of what happened in the Southeast Asian markets and the fear that the U.S. economy could go into a recession. I think that's part of it. But as far as we are concerned in Nigeria, we are having to deal with some factors, macroeconomic factors that will stabilize the economy, irrespective of whether there's a protest or not, or whether the protest lingers on. But we think that the protest there will be some accommodation and dialogue between the federal government of Nigeria and the people of Nigeria. That conversation, we expect that to continue. But in the meantime, certain things are happening. And I want to point out one. The retail Dutch auction system is commencing tomorrow. The Central Bank of Nigeria has not said that it's going to be weekly or bi-weekly or something, but that retail Dutch auction will commence tomorrow. What it means is that if I bid for anything that is for my personal travel allowance or for school fees or for importation of goods, I would I will go to my bank, and my bank would put the bid and put my name on the list to the Central Bank of Nigeria, and my bank will also uh, put an amount that Bismarck Rewane has bidded for foreign exchange for his travel allowance, and he wants it. He's agreed to pay 1,700. If the central bank has $20 million to sell, once it sells to the highest bidder until it gets to a point where it cuts off and say this is a stop rate for today. So the next time they will have an auction, the Nigerian retail auction that INI will bid and say she wants to travel for holidays, and she's now bidding at 1,500. But because Bismarck Rewane lost at 1,700, the chances that you would win the auction at 1,500 is low. Therefore, you will probably bid higher. So the initial reaction, as far as I'm concerned, is that it's going to make the naira slightly weaker in the short run because everybody is bidding. But the point is that if I bring in my goods, if I'm importing rice, and I win my bid at 1,900 for a dollar, and you win your bid at 1,500 for a dollar, you will be able to sell your rice faster than I, and I will lose. I'll be stuck with very expensive inventory. So what happens is that I will then go back the next time and bid at a lower rate. So what does the Dutch auction do? It leads to efficient price discovery, and the naira will begin to find its value. One, two, it clears the air as to whether the central bank is discriminating in its sale of foreign exchange to its favorites. So once that is clear, that one, there's a price discovery. Two, that there's no favoritism, it's objective. You'll find that the true value of the naira will emerge from that process. So for now, yesterday the naira depreciated a little bit because people are not fully aware of the modalities of this new system. It is, by the way, it's not a new system. We had a retail Dutch auction before. We had a wholesale Dutch auction. So that will happen. But another factor that we must bear in mind is that every bank has to put naira behind its bidding. So the question of having a carry trade in which you would borrow money from the central bank to buy foreign exchange for the central bank does not exist. You must fund your account. Your account must be in credit, and your customers will give you naira to go and bid. And if later on they find out that the naira you gave to them, you didn't use it for bidding and you use it for something else, then there will be a lot of furor. So one, it's going to lead to tighter money supply, that is higher interest rates, but at the same time, it will lead to a more stable exchange rate in the short run. And you can see already that Dangote has brought down the price of diesel and brought down the price of kerosene. So we are beginning to see some form of reduced volatility in some of the essential commodities that are being traded at this time.
Anyway, so we also have to consider that time lag for policy implementation to have full effect. Do we have an idea of how long it might take for this to translate into the value of the naira?
Well, the truth is that, like I said at the beginning of this session this morning, there's a lag between when you announce policies and when it has the desired impact. And also there'll be unintended consequences. I think that you've seen the naira stabilize around the 1,500, 1,600 level. But at the same time, we must understand that that is not the demand supply factor and the difference between the power rate and the market rate. So let me give you an example. If you want to travel tomorrow and you want to go and bid, you will send all your papers to your bank. Your bank will send it to the central bank. And at what rate are you going to get it? You are going to be getting it at the NAFEX rate, which is about 1602. If you go across the road to the Malam to buy, you'll get it at 1600 or 1580. So the chances that you are going to start bidding for buying travel allowance, where you can go to the BDC and buy it at the retail level, the rates are the same. The incentive to arbitrage and to take advantage of markets, arbitrage is defined as taking advantage of the different prices in the same market. There's no incentive to arbitrage. There's no incentive to round trip, and therefore I suspect that the total demand by retail customers in Nigeria will not be as high as as we had, and to debunk this idea that there's a shortage of foreign exchange. There's a shortage of foreign exchange at a subsidized price. There's no shortage of foreign exchange at the market price. Therefore, we will know by tomorrow, at the end of tomorrow, okay, yes, maybe $500 million is bidder, and the central bank gives, say, 300. The rate cuts off at about 1,700. Then the next day, the central bank comes again and says, we are doing $300 million. You would see immediately that the people that have bought the dollars and their naira has gone already will not have naira to come back for the subsequent bid. And so gradually, you begin to see the naira begin to appreciate, but it will take some time. I would suspect it will take a minimum of 4 to 6 weeks before you begin to find a stable, non-volatile naira, depending on the price of oil, the oil revenues, and the fact that we are able to, there's transparency in the process. And I think there will be transparency in the process.
All right, we hope there will be transparency, Mr. Rewane. Thank you so much for sharing your views with us this morning, Chief Executive Officer of Financial Derivatives Company.
Thank you very much for having me.
All right, let's take a break now. When we come back, we're still staying on the issue that's putting protesters on the street. Top on the list is food. Talk about that after the break.